Okay, so this video is going to look at some underlying principles of keying using what are called travel mattes in Final Cut Pro. Travel mattes are basically made up of two things. That the matte refers to a matte image, and a matte image is a kind of an image that is going to be used to control the transparency of an object, and we're going to use some simple images such as bars and grayscale gradients, grays and things like that, just to show you what the matte image can do when it's applied to another image. And by image I mean video image or video clip. Now the travel just simply refers to that these things are moving, these things are dynamic, that they're not the effect isn't static because we're dealing with video. So travel matte is just a matte or a masking or a composite that moves. Now before we get into the real bones of the travel part of it, we're going to just look at how these things work. Now when we deal with matte images in terms of their luminosity or their brightness, then we're looking at images in terms of the ranges of values from white all the way to black. And in a basic sense, when we see something that is fully white, then it has a value of 1, or sometimes you can look at it as a value of 100%, or the maximum value that it can possibly have. The black value, on the other hand, has a value of 0 or 0%. So it's always a kind of a multiplying effect that we have. But when we're looking at travel mattes that use luminosity, then we can kind of just use a rule of thumb that wherever our matte image is white, it's going to make the image that it's controlling visible or opaque, and where it's black, it's going to make that part of the image transparent, so you can see through it. Now the way I'm going to demonstrate that is by using my I'll just use any piece of video would do here, but I'm just going to use this guy here because I'm going to use that a little bit later on. And at the bottom of the video tracks here, I'm going to create a color solid, and I'm going to give it a nice bright garish yellow so we know we're looking at the background when we see yellow. Okay, so at present we have the solid loaded up in the viewer, and we have our video clip at the top under the playhead, so we can see that in the canvas window here. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this grays clip as a way of controlling how much of this top motorcycle clip is going to be visible and how much is going to be opaque. Now the way I'm going to do that, there's a particular order to that, so I need to get this image directly underneath the image that I wanted to control. So I'll slide that motorcycle up onto the video 3, and I'll slip grays.png in there underneath it as a drag to timeline overwrite. Okay, I'll switch off the top layer just to make sure. Now just so happens that I've the wrong aspect here, but that's fine. I'm going to do a very quick and nasty transform on that just to make it fill the entire frame. I'll switch back to image. Okay, so now I'll go to 2 up as well so I can see more. Okay, so I'll switch back on my video layer, and directly below that I have my grays.png. So if I just toggle the top layer off and on, I can see that on the left hand side I've got the guy's arm, I've got the bridge, I've got the 2 guys on the motorcycle, and I've got the background there. And underneath that I've got white on the left, different grades of grey in between. So these are different values. So this is going to be fully opaque, and then all the way down through these values fully transparent. So I'll switch that back on. Now the way I apply this grays PNG as a kind of control matte image to this is actually by clicking on the top layer that I want the grays to control, which is my motorcycle clip, and I go down to composite mode and travel matte Luma. Now this happens. So this is the visible result of all of those things that I mentioned. Where I had a white on the left, the image remains completely visible. Where I had a black on the right, the image is is transparent. So the different variations of grey, or values of grey in between, are actually being multiplied by the values of the colours in the top video to give us different grades of transparency. Okay, so that is in a nutshell how Travel Matte Luma works as a way of compositing two clips together. Now I'm going to use this principle in a moment to do the a kind of an effect whereby the guy cycling the motorcycle, his face is always blurred out. Okay, and there's a couple of different steps to that I look at. I'll actually stop this video and pick up in the next one for that. So